such a wonderful story for Vietri, and thinking back on it, you can correct me on these things, but it began with a wonderful story you could talk forever about and have about your wonderful father died, and then one of his gifts he gave for you and your sister Frances and your mother, wonderful mother, spectacular person, uh, a bunch of money to go and have some fun and celebrate his life and enjoy it. And
That's right.
well, you
It
go.
was only $2,000, Jerry, but in 1981, for us in our late 20s, it was $1 million. And you're right.
So $2,000 and off you went, and you chose to go to Italy. Was that your choice?
Well, it was interesting. It was a trip that Mama and Daddy had planned. He had just sold his company, which was a tobacco business, and then had this heart attack. So 2 years later, Mama said, I want to go on the trip that your daddy and I planned, invited Frances and me, not my brothers, who to this day are mad about it, and off we went. We then happened upon this mix and match dinnerware on the Amalfi Coast and hired a driver who spoke English and Italian. And within 2 days of going back and forth, Mama said, look, I invited you on a vacation. I've had it with y'all thinking about this work. So tomorrow we're going to Capri, which we did. But that was the seed of this glorious 37 years. And the $2,000 came in, we used that money when we started, and Mama invested $16,000. I invested my $2,000. Frances invested her $2,000. So our seed money was $20,000. That was the beginning.
And,
Funny when you think about it now, but you know, right. It was really important, and it started me off with this drive and motivation to do well and to put everything into it and kind of stay with the mission that I had seen in my childhood of having lots of foreigners in our home and eating together and setting a table and listening to all these different takes on life and on different countries. The food was always the same, but the plates were always different. So that was the beginning.
Isn't that interesting? And the thing I love is having the good luck to meet you many years ago and knowing and working through this is you really built, maybe didn't fully understand it. Well, maybe you did. A mission to provide the joy that you grew up experiencing with all the wonderful people in Eastern North Carolina and then in Italy, and the joy of having family times together and meals together and company and friends and celebrating life, and then doing so beautifully.
Thank you.
Here we are in 2020, and the bottom falls out with the coronavirus and the economic onslaught that followed. And so I think it would be helpful if you'd mind talking a little bit about what happened. When was the date where you guys started to realize that the world was changing forever in terms of particularly your business wise as well as your life?
I think when Bill Ross, my husband, and I really realized it was in Italy. We were in Florence. We had gone for a couple of months so that I could work and write these children's books. And it was the week of February 16th. And we kept hearing about it. We didn't have a TV, but we kept hearing on the street, and we'd be reading the news online. And during that week, from Monday to Thursday, Florence went from 1 to 135 people with COVID. And we thought, we better get home. So we went to the airport to get a ticket. It was mass chaos. We got out on Sunday. And when we arrived home that day, which was the 23rd, I think it was, they were starting to take temperatures at airports. So that was the beginning. I feel like I was having kind of a global experience. We were hearing about China. One of our manufacturers was close to the village where it had started in Italy, and the entire village in the Veneto region now had COVID. So I went home for 2 weeks for quarantine and started talking to my leadership team right then. So when I got back to work on the 15th, we had really already started talking about the what ifs. What if everything stops? What if this gets worse? And Mark Gabriel, I'd said, create the absolute worst scenario and 2 more, and let's talk about what that looks like. So I got back to work on Monday, the 15th of March, and on the 16th, the stock market crashed. So that was my first 2 weeks. Incredible.
Yeah. So then you got back into work on the 15th, I guess. And so what did you start doing, or what did you guys, you remember the process you were experiencing in?
We were having daily management meetings, daily, what we call executive meetings, talking about how people were feeling, what was happening externally, how is that going to impact our business? Because we knew that the big bulk of our business was specialty independent stores. We had a small .com business. We had a nice, strong independent store business and department store business. And we knew that was going to fall if we got shut down. So we immediately started calling our stores, reassuring them, finding out what they were thinking. We had 8 containers on the ocean, so we knew we had to figure out something to do. And what kept coming back through having a board of directors as well, and 2 people massively in .com and marketing, is that we needed to focus on that .com business, that if it closed down, people would be home. And so that was one of the scenarios that we were looking at. Then we had a board of directors informational meeting on the 24th and got the go ahead and the encouragement that this was the right direction. We were still wondering what it was going to look like. And lo and behold, we were planning to have a warehouse sale on April 1st, which is a huge cash benefit to us. And I woke up and said, we're having it online. So in 6 days, we planned an online virtual warehouse sale. We usually do a couple of $100,000. I budgeted $50,000. I said, if we can do $50,000, then we know this in business. And in those days, we ended up doing $235,000. And I was just, I mean, right now I get goosebumps thinking we weren't prepared. We didn't have any idea that it was going to grow. But what it did is it was absolutely the impetus that we needed to look at that external environment and change fast, pivot, move. And so that's when we started furloughing.
Yeah.
And that's what I consider my phase 1. That kind of aha moment, huge success on .com. Now let's get our house in place for the furlough.
So the warehouse success, I mean, surprising, I mean, be 5 times bigger than you would imagine.
Yes.
And then gave the confidence and really validated what 2 of your board members, Lisa Price
and Joyce Fitzpatrick, yes.
They were just extraordinarily, there's gifted and talented in that
Very.
whole internet marketing, and they pushed and urged, and the board said that makes great sense. And the thing that I love of what you did is you changed. You were willing to change, and you'd been moving down that path, and then so that you said, okay, let's go for it and do that. And then what did you do with your team, or how did you approach doing that?
So, we were also in the midst of furloughs. They hit right then.
Yeah.
So we furloughed 2/3 of our employees. We had 8 people in the office out of 40. And we had, 4 in the office and 4 in the outlet. So that in the warehouse, so that they could keep shipping, because we had small amounts of drop ship. We still had stores on the East Coast that were getting product, but March was horrendous. So we laid off 2 people, we furloughed the rest for 2 weeks, and then our employees, our warehouse people, took a 30% cut. Our staff took a 30%. Our executive management team took a 50% cut in pay, and I got nothing. And I brought lunch every day. Every day I cooked lunch at night to bring to these people to say, we're in this, we're going to make it. Don't think about your food. Let's just work and focus on what we need to focus on.
Wow.
So that was the big, big first emotional pivot. My thoughts were always, I'm going to pay these people back for their hard work and labor. I want them to see that I'm working just as hard as they are, and I want to keep them informed. And so that's when daily meetings happened. I was in the warehouse talking to those 4. We were adjusting our budgets. We had, these 3 budgets, and were they even deep enough? And we were adjusting those and knowing, again, cash flow was going to be difficult. So, and on top of that, this was April, Holly Drawn, who had been our VP of Sales and Marketing, I knew through Joyce and Lisa that she was interested in coming back. So I called her and said, here's the deal. We need to build .com. We need to grow this. I'm going to put $200,000 into it of my money. And I want you to come back and make this thing happen. And that was one of the big lucky stars during this period. She was available. She knew the company. She loved the company. The staff knew her. They were saying, Susan, if you believe in this, let's go with it. And that's what happened. And that was April. So it was very fast. She and this Dominic Chimio, who is a fabulous technical guru that works with us on .com, started putting their heads together. And the big key was to build brand, get new people. So we started with really building the website and starting to work with Shopify, which is a wonderful software system that gives you a lot of analytics. And then I started something called happy hours, that every week I would speak with one of our vendors, or with you, or with a chef in Italy, or Frances Mays about her cookbook, and engage our end consumers and engage our factories, because it was hard here, but there they had cut everybody. They were getting no government help. All of the other Americans were going to Portugal for pricing, and it was us. So that kept relationships going, and we started building these relationships, and we found that day after day, even today, 65% of our purchasers are new people.
Wow.
So it's been incredible. So with that, how do you re-engage? How do you keep them happy? And on top of that, factories closed for 3 months. So we were going to be back ordered significantly in some product. How did we handle that with customer service? So we had all these complex issues with, on top of everything, it was about, are our employees okay? Are their families okay? Am I getting the support from my leadership team and from my board and from you of am I thinking through this clearly? And then making sure our vendors, once they started working, were working hard for us.
Yeah, that is wonderful. Susan, do you have a sense how you felt during these different stages, like in the impact on you and on Bill, your husband, wonderful husband, who's so supportive and involved, but what you were going through for all leaders, it's just not easy, extraordinarily stressful.
Well, you know, Jerry, I think you've told me this before, and I really do believe it. Family is a word that not only means Bill Ross, but it means people that you feel incredibly close to, that you trust. And I look at people here at Vietri as my family as well. As far as my married family, um, I'm married to a glass half full, bright environmental attorney who sees the world through the next bird that he sees, or the next sunset that he sees, or the next walk he takes. And so I get some real positive support from Bill Ross.
Yeah.
And we have never spent so much time together in our lives. You know, we were cooking, we were eating at home, and it's been fantastic. I must say, it's been great. I heard someone talk about, this whole work life balance, and they said something that resonated to me, which was, it's never going to be balanced. It's how you incorporate the two and how you utilize both in your life with your value set. And that's how it is for Bill and me. I mean, our work life is a compromise of time we spend feeling good about ourselves and feeling good together. So that was great.
Yeah.
How did I feel? I
Yeah.
gained a little weight, even with hiking. Too much getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning for an hour and a half and eating a bit, but that's going to come off. I never doubted we could do it. That's something that's kind of always been part of my DNA. I work really well under stress. I might work better under stress than I do when things are going real well, because when it's going real well, I'm going, okay, what's next? But I kind of went into my core values of communicating, being honest, walking my talk. We started having some virtual staff meetings. One recently where Bill came in and Jeff Campbell, who is our warehouse manager, did one that was athletically focused on Wayne Gretzky, saying it's not where you hit the ball, it's where the ball's going that you should watch. Yeah. And then the Yale basketball team was in the early NIT, and they had a big football star come, and he was talking about being pissed off for greatness. We can't, if we think we just want to live a normal life, we're not living. You got to be pissed off. And Bill and Jeff did it. So I keep doing things that I try to let them know who I am, and also, not cut corners. Right now, we need sharp, strong corners. We need the hit on the side sometimes. We need people that are telling us, other ideas. We need to be vulnerable as leaders. And as you have taught me so much, we've got to communicate. And we've got, as leaders, either go to a Jerry Bell leadership and get some support, or find somebody that's non-family that can bounce off ideas honestly, because it's hard. It's been really hard.
Couple things that add to that. One thing is your team seems to me, and then you can comment on this, your team seems to have been energized with you. I mean, just completely committed and excited, and my sense, and I'd love your comments, that they've actually risen their level of performance and abilities and commitment, worked harder and better and produced more. And you've had continued what you had, but built and excelled in having a culture that's really what we're calling an achiever culture, which is honesty, joy, giving your best, and being willing to make mistakes. So what is that correct, or what is your thinking about your people and your experience with them?
You know, I'm listening to you, Jerry, and I'm thinking, is this just too goody two shoes? But the truth is, I got to pinch myself.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. And the answer is yes. When you get down to 4 people in your office running a company this size, they're there because they love it and they want to see success.
Yeah.
And every person from in the warehouse to my 5 vice presidents have worked really hard, really succinctly, very much together. When there have been issues, they have come together to discuss it and compromise. I mean, we're getting ready to have a year where our sales will be over, our revenue will be over our original budget. Of course, costs are down because we haven't traveled, but our profit, our net profit will be bigger than it's been in the history of this country.
Yeah.
Now,
Company and that.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's great, but it is about doing those small things for your team and making sure you're listening. You know, we'll print a T-shirt, give everybody a T-shirt that says "Poised for Greatness," you know, or we'll. They don't even know it, but on Thursday I'm giving every employee the same, and we're going to give them $500 each, just to say, "Job well done."
Yeah.
We've got 3 more months of this thing.
Yeah.
But it's about that.
Yeah.
You can't be greedy right now.
Yeah. No, that is wonderful. So, Susan, looking back, and maybe it's too soon, you're in the middle of it, but in terms of initial thoughts of things you have learned and been learning, really about leading and leading in a crisis and reflecting on that, what are some of the things that come to mind as you think about it?
Be intentional. You know, that leadership during crises means making decisions out of what you decide is the best option if there's conflict, and standing firm there. I think that's one of the hardest things we do and one of the most important things we do. Clarity of goals and vision continuously and communicating that, listening, letting those in their positions lead and make decisions and receive suggestions, not 3 pages of information to make a decision. Everything is faster. Everything is it has to be done more quickly, so that gets down to trust. And I hope how I lead is that they trust me and I trust them. And when there is a difficult moment, I'm clear and pretty decisive in discussing those issues. But I think those things are important. I think the other, Jerry, for me is staying healthy, thinking about myself a little bit, making sure I'm healthy and I'm sleeping, and encouraging others that way. Because it's not just the work, it's making sure you've got endurance for the long haul.
Yeah.
And then seeking support. Use a board of directors or use a board of advisors, or call Bill Leadership or somebody that you can be vulnerable with to seek another angle of thought or a new idea. And I think this has been a period that you've said over and over. It's when creativity comes and and new ways of thinking about things and new options. And I think that comes better when you're rested.
One of the things I really admire about you and what you've done and do is you've, in really most ways, if not always, had a complete devotion to learning. So you've been an
Right.
avid learner, you've been extremely inquisitive, you've always been alert to get new ideas. And so it's been a lifetime of growth and learning, continuing to learn. And another part of that, and I think the viewers will see it and hear it, is your willingness to ask advice and your vulnerability, meaning I'm willing to say, or I don't know everything, and I need
Right.
your help. And the interesting thing I've observed is that is genuine, and how that impacts people is everybody wants to contribute and help because you're after trying to achieve good things and with good intentions and good values, and really extraordinary people join you in doing that. In addition to your suppliers and artists throughout Italy, that they love you. I guess a third thing, and I think the people who are watching this, is to see your natural abilities with people. So you have grew up and built this and have this, a love for people and humanity and caring and curiosity, and you're able still to be strong and make tough decisions, but you truly build friends and build relationships and all over the world. So you have the people you do business with are friends and become friends. And so that's a real gift. It's the lessons people know, but you can't learn enough and learn more deeply is, unless you really care about people, it's hard to ever care about your customers. And you naturally
Yeah.
do that.
Well, I do thank you for that. And I started thinking about when I was 15 years old, and I was the first girl to give a sermon at my little Episcopal church. And I went in early, and my father sat on the very back pew. And as opposed to listening to my words that I'd worked so hard on it, he kept going, "I can't hear you. I can't hear you." It made me so mad. But what he told me after that was, never be afraid to express yourself if it's coming from the right place. And I think that's really true in really tough times as well as really good times.
Yeah.
And I think that people would be amazed if they can let down their CEO hat, take it off, and just talk from their heart, or try to talk from how other people are feeling in this world. It's tough for people out there. You know, I mean, we try to do a little something extra for the wife that has cancer or the parents that are living in California right now. Just think about the other people and how whatever you're doing is impacting them. And then everybody gets on board because everybody feels a part of it.
Susan, I've finished, but thank you for devoting your time to us and sharing your ideas, and continue to do what you're doing. And we will continue to be friends and partners and have fun succeeding. And so it's a great time, and continue on, and we'll all root for Vietri and her continued success.